And at that time, I started being harassed by staff. I started being harassed by other inmates, and I believe it was at the suggestion of staff. Because some of these inmates are working directly with staff in their job capacity. So, unfortunately, you can't really get past that. You can't really get around that. So, sometimes people are going to be upset, people are going to vent, things are going to be said. I get it. Um, but at no point in time should anyone be harassed, retaliated against, or intimidated for exercising a constitutional right. I came into prison with two large stacks of legal paperwork from county jail. So when the harassment started, probably about a month or two after that, I was inexplicably placed in a section of the prison around people that had a lot of issues. I had a lot of behavioral issues and things like that. And, I really didn't feel safe. And that was when I started really being singled out for further retaliation and intimidation. And it was around February 23rd of 2022. I was actually locked in a room because I was quarantined because of COVID. So I could not leave my cell. And two COs intentionally did not give me breakfast, did not give me lunch, did not give me my medication, and a nurse was supposed to check on me because I was quarantined for COVID. And basically, they were telling me that, we want your paperwork. And the one CO was like, you know, every single page. And I was only given food, which was dinner that day. That's what I was given that day. It was one meal. And I know that doesn't seem like much, but when you're locked in a room, it gets very stressful on top of all the other harassment and intimidation. So it magnifies that. And they didn't give me food until I literally started hand shredding documents that were in my legal box. And, I'd been fighting my case for over 3 years. That was not something I wanted, and that's not something I would have done had I not been placed in that situation. So I finally get some sleep. Not everything was shredded. There was, just a huge stack that was definitely still intact. There was a good amount of it. And at 11 p.m., I was woken up out of a dead sleep by a correctional officer who handed me a trash bag and told me to place every piece of paper that was in my legal box and from my legal box into the trash bag. And I did as I was ordered to because I was afraid of further retaliation. So this correctional officer then took that bag and he had a gray plastic trash can and he took all that. I don't know what he did with it. I have no idea where he put it. It took me 4 months of kites and grievances to get the answer of it was placed in the trash, which is not good because inmates handle the trash. So they were privy to the information of my personal information, information from my case, information from, a lot of other personal situations. And then there was a lot of people's information in there. It just. So after this happened, I asked to speak to the chief inspector and the inspector of the prison during audit week because I wanted to make sure that this didn't happen to anybody else. And I wanted to find out what had happened to my stuff. And I wanted someone to know what had happened to me and what was done because I didn't want it to happen to anyone else. So I did that and got nowhere. They looked upset. So, I thought maybe somebody's going to look into it, told the right people, nothing got done. So I continued to try to do kites and grievances and try to get some kind of assistance, with this. I wrote the federal court and told them what had happened to me because I wanted them to know that, I was forced to stop my federal appeal, and I was unable to continue it at that point or even refile anything at that point because I no longer had the evidence to back it up with me in prison. And there's deadlines to all of these things. Every single appeal, every single motion, every single thing that you do is time sensitive. And they know that. They do this every day for years. These people know what they're doing in the prisons when they do these things. So at that point in time, I was no longer able to appeal my case. And so I, tried to do something else that would be positive despite what had happened. So I ended up in Sinclair and I went for supply chain management. I put in the work, I made straight A's. Um, and towards the end of my second quarter, the harassment just kept getting worse. Um, so I ended up doing a different job. So throughout my last 3 years in prison, I was singled out. I was given tickets that were not legitimate at all. I got a ticket for not showing a correctional officer my mouth at meds when I had a mask on. I actually had to have them look it up on camera and you could see where I pulled my mask off in order to show him. And had I not asked for that, I would have been found guilty on that ticket. Um, and it was undeserved. I so many things were said. I have the kites where they admit that my paperwork was taken, and their reply was that, the next time they were going to review policy, that they were going to make a formal policy to address that issue. That make sure that inmates' paperwork gets shredded, their legal paperwork gets shredded before it's disposed of and all these other things, which is insane because at no point in time should they touch anyone's legal paperwork. It's illegal. It's definitely against the law. The fact that I was reporting things that a sheriff did wrong because he did falsify a police report, and that is on paper in black and white. And due to this, hundreds of cases could have been reopened going back so many years. And I believe that this is why these things happened to me and why I was forced to discontinue my appeal, because they didn't want anyone to get in trouble. They didn't want, how it is. Nobody wants lawsuits. Nobody wants to look bad. Nobody wants, all these things. Um, some things had already made the news, though. I actually had a high-profile case. So my case was followed by 3 or 4 news stations, 2 or 3 plus newspapers. When 28 Minutes went missing out of my cruiser cam tape, it hit the front page of the paper. And at that point in time, the sheriff's department changed every single recording device in every car to digital when that happened, when that came out. So I'm not going to speculate on that, but you can come to your own conclusion on that, why that might have been done. So finally, after, going through all those things and just doing the best I can, there were some days where I honestly didn't think I was going to get through another day. Some days it was really a struggle. And I actually ended up, and this was really crazy.